everybody. Welcome back to Learn with PARQA. As you know, I'm Chanel, but we have an unfamiliar face here on camera with us. So I want to introduce to you Dan Woodbeck. So Dan, why don't you just kind of introduce yourself and what you do with PARQA?
Yeah, thank you, Chanel. My name is Dan Woodbeck. I'm the Director of Technical Services here at PARQA Marketing, fully responsible for our digital transformation for clients that are in the technical stack around Salesforce, the Salesforce ecosystem, and the Bullhorn ecosystem. And we help them transform, whether we're onboarding them to platforms or migrating them to platforms or even extending their roadmap on those particular platforms.
Awesome. Well, it's fun to have you join us for this week's episode. One of our core values at PARQA is continuous improvement. And so in that vein, what we do is a lot of our teams attend different conferences around throughout the year to improve their knowledge and learning around things, right? And one of those conferences that we attended recently was Salesforce Connections down in Chicago. And so that's why we pulled Dan into this episode to kind of chat through. He was there on site. And he's going to chat through some of the biggest takeaways from this year's conference. Obviously, it was a chock full event this year and lots of good learnings and takeaways. And so first and foremost, the first takeaway that we have is all around the age of AI. So as you guys probably know, late last year, the world was kind of upended by the launch of ChatGPT, right? I think the message is clear that AI is here to stay. It's not just a fad. And so Dan, can you share a little bit more about what we're seeing with AI and where things might be headed?
Yeah, so Chanel, good point. I think the age of AI or how quickly AI has consumed us is there's a lot of fear in theory that it's going to be taking our jobs. But at Connections, we have confidence with Salesforce that they actually are indicating that it's not going to take our jobs. And I think that's where everybody should, kind of be looking at it, where we really should be embracing AI. Salesforce specifically is bringing a lot of technology around AI into all of their platforms, which we'll get into in a second. But if we learn how to use AI and really embrace it, it'll actually make our jobs more efficient. Doesn't mean you need that we don't need to study it and understand it, but fundamentally, it's not going to take our job. Now, with that being said, Salesforce specifically has embraced AI. They have always embraced AI. Their previous iterations were around Einstein, but they do have a relationship with OpenAPI and ChatGPT, and they actually are creating their own models with AI that impact their services, such as there's going to be releases, as you see, around Sales GPT, Service GPT, Marketing, Commerce, Tableau, and Slack. Every one of their modules will have some form of AI involved that are focused around some of the open models and focused around what we'll get into is Salesforce's own model and their own data that is your data specifically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the quotes that I've heard recently that kind of stuck with me is, is AI coming for my job? And it's like, well, no, I don't believe it's coming for your job, but someone who's using AI better than you might be coming for your job, right? And so it's all about how we leverage it. And how we leverage it, it's a brand new thing. And so a lot of people have some fear and some concern around that, right? And so point number 2 is all around trust, right? There's a huge layer of trust all around, GPT and all of these large language models and how we use AI. And so responsible and ethical use of AI is absolutely critical, especially at enterprise scale where it has tenants across security and privacy and compliance and data, all of those pieces. So Dan, speak a little bit more to the trust layer of AI.
Yes. So one of those things that Salesforce is always generally leading the pack in is taking those considerations when a new technology is coming to play. And so Salesforce is very serious about what they call the trust layer, or you'll hear in other iterations their AI cloud. That is specifically focused on making sure there's ethical use around AI, that you don't have to be concerned about the security and the privacy of your data, the compliance of your data, and ultimately keeping that data safe. And I think that's really where Salesforce and why we are participating in the Salesforce ecosystem to help drive our customers and give confidence that that's not the wild, wild west of AI, and there are parameters or boundaries around AI that you can have confidence in. And that's really what they're talking about with their trust layer and what we'll continue to see evolve in this world of AI.
So interesting. The third point is all around the data cloud. And Dan, I know you can speak to this far better than I can. So can you just kind of summarize the latest learnings around all things data cloud and what that means as we move forward?
Yeah, so with the history of Salesforce and trying to organize how to create a data warehouse, for lack of a better term, Salesforce has iterated over time and recently quickly, such as the last 12 months roughly, where they've actually settled on a product called Data Cloud that's really going to be revolutionize the industry around data. And what that really means is that they finally have built a platform that is equivalent to a data lake, or what you could call a data lake house, which is a organization of several data lakes, and really has given the power to the admins or the marketers or the technology teams to bring data in from sources like AWS and Google, and also bring it in data in from your other sources like Salesforce and other platforms within Salesforce, and give you the leverage of creating real solid segmentation that drive personalization in your channel communications or even analytics. But the important part of this technology that's coming out is it's really giving a ton of power back to the admins. You don't have to be a data lake person and know all the things about data. What matters is how can we bring the data in, how can we model it to what we need to model it for, and how can we create that segmentation that drives towards our channels like Marketing Cloud personalization, and actually external platforms, paid media, social, that are really creating a personalized experience. It's still very early. Fundamentally, they have evolved from calling it CDP, Genie, to really finally landing on what is a real pure product called Data Cloud, and giving a ton of power to the marketers, administrators, and really anybody that's using the system to improve how they actually access that data. Now, that being said, AI is going to be in Data Cloud. AI meaning, as we just discussed, if I learn how to be a good prompter, I'm going to be able to use a lot of products. So again, when we go back to the original concept of, is AI taking my job? It's not. How do we become good prompters with any particular module in the Salesforce ecosystem is really going to be critical, and that's really where marketers should shift their thinking, and really admins should shift their thinking as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that Park is very passionate about, given that, we're a performance marketing company that specifically services the staffing and recruiting industry, we're always hyper-focused about how these changes within tech and data are going to affect recruiting, right? What's that recruiting impact look like? And so, Dan, can you speak a little bit to that too?
Yeah, so one of the things that we do here at PARQA on our side of the technology stack, if you will, is we are working with clients that are either looking to get into the Salesforce ecosystem or maybe are already partially in the Salesforce ecosystem. And really how AI is going to impact this, if we think about the recruiter industry and we think about the prompting, and what a recruiter might do on a daily basis about trying to find a job for a candidate and the type of searching, there's really an opportunity that it's going to create the efficiency where I'm looking as a recruiter, I'm actually using AI and being able to prompt and search for a particular job or a match, being able to communicate with a candidate real time using prompting and creating content that my candidate might respond to. So those are the types of things we're going to start to see in the recruiter side of the staffing, if you will, and other things obviously as well. But when you look at Bullhorn for Salesforce, who is on the Salesforce ecosystem, is going to be able to take advantage of this AI. Target Recruit, which is also on the Salesforce ecosystem, is going to be able to take advantage of this. And the newer ones like Assemble, who are really starting to evolve how to really bring in some solid applications into the Salesforce ecosystem. We're all going to be able to access this AI component, if you will. And so those things are going to rapidly and quickly change how recruiters and how we get clients within our staffing structure. It's going to help all of the things that we do and make it much more efficient.
Yes. Well said. Well said. Well, that's something that, this space is constantly evolving and rapidly changing, right? And Dan's team is here to help, staffing and recruiting companies, to see them through their digital transformation. Maybe you're in the midst of a migration to a new platform. Maybe you're evaluating whether to migrate to another platform, or maybe you're set up well, but you don't have your processes automated, and maybe you can't rely on your data, right? You're not sure about how leverageable your data is as it stands right now. We're here to come alongside you. You're not alone. So if you have questions, if you want to, chat with us. Obviously, Dan's an open book. Connect with us on LinkedIn. Otherwise, visit parqa.com. And thanks for joining us for this week's episode, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.